So let's dive into this story a little bit. So you arrive at work, you're already having this weird feeling, you're kind of joking with your buddy who ultimately ends up going to this call with you, ironically enough. What happens next?
So because of COVID, we have the team numbers. So I was team 77, so odd numbers. So this was May 26th, so no briefing for me. So I went straight down into my car, had coffee in hand. I found my car. We have this thing where you do the same thing, right? You've been a cop for a long time. You turn on your car and you go through your thing. So I turned my car on, turned the computer on, let that boot up. We got this new system, so you have to put your ID card on the computer, so that takes a while to spool up. And then I hit the radio, and then we got these new radios, and that takes about 30 seconds to go through its thing. And then right when it kicks into 6 to 8 people shot, mass shooter, VTA light rail. And as I'm hearing this, I'm drinking my coffee, and it's 6:34 in the morning, and I'm like, bro, you got to be kidding me. On 3
hours of sleep.
On 3 hours of sleep, thinking, wow, this is it. Like, you knew it was real. You knew it was a real one because it wasn't. I knew the dispatcher of all the dispatchers up there, and you could tell in the tone of this dispatcher's voice that this was the real deal. Multiple callers on this one. So,
wow.
So I kind of put my coffee down. I look at I hit the lineup on who's out there. Mids is rolling in. There's only a few early cars logging on because that's right around the time they logged on. So, and just to give you an idea of perspective, the sergeant's garage where we are, it's literally a block and a half away.
Wow.
So that,
you're there, there.
We're there. And it's the sheriff's jurisdiction. So VTA is right next to the sheriff's headquarters. And I'm hearing San Jose officers being dispatched. And so I grab the mic and I go, hey, my call sign 5X10. How many San Jose units, and is there a San Jose supervisor? And the dispatcher replies, 5 San Jose, no supervisor. And I respond back, well, I guess that's me, so go and show me en route. So off I went, and in about 30 seconds, I land on the corner where I see officers starting to arrive. There was probably 24 or so already there. Now, these are not officers I've ever worked with either. So I want to say the tenure of this particular group ranged anywhere from, there's 1 or 2 with about 15 to 20 years on, but most of them had 3 years or less.
Wow.
One was an FTO with a recruit 10 weeks into the program.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. So I look at everybody, everyone's kind of going through their stuff, and I think I told you it didn't take long to get there, but I looked at one specific individual, a face that I recognized, because San Jose is kind of a weird beast. You'll see people, I might work with you for a day, I won't see you for 15 years.
Yeah, if it's that big, I can see that.
Yeah, and then in this case, I looked and I'm like, well, I recognize one face, I don't really recognize the others. So I see the one person that I recognize, he's already got his helmet on, he's got his plate carrier, and he's got his rifle. This guy, he has probably about 23 years on. I look over at him. I said, hey, Mike, man, you ready to go? He goes, yeah, I'm ready to go. So I turn, and this is where, you just kind of run with what you know. Mm-hmm. And I turn around, and I see another sergeant land, and I said, hey, dude, do me a favor. You stay and establish a CP. And I look at this crowd, and I wasn't sure who was going to go with. I mean, you don't have that luxury on like being on a TAC team.
Yeah.
I said, whoever wants to go, it's time to go. We need to go now. So I want to say 6 or 7 went with me. The radio traffic that's coming out is that the shooter is still shooting, and there's another contact team on the other side. We'll call it the C side of the building. So we're on the A side, the front.
Okay.
And there is a contact team, we'll call them contact team 1, that consisted of the FTO, a recruit, another officer with about 2 years on, and then 2 deputy sheriffs, one being a sergeant that was, I believe he was on their CERT team, Santa Clara County CERT, their SWAT team. So they put out that they were up on the exterior ladder well going up to the 3rd floor, and that they were going to try and access from up there. So I put out that we were going to access the building from the ground floor, and then hopefully we're going to cross paths. But my concern there is blue on blue. This facility is huge. Imagine an Amazon warehouse. This place houses trains.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's huge. I mean,
Well, I'm curious real quick. How did you guys know where to make entry? And then did you guys know roughly where the shooter was, or were you guys just guessing and you guys were just making entry through
wild ass guess, man? A wild ass guess.
Kidding.
Yeah. I'd worked and lived in the city my whole life. I had never been in front of this building before. It's kind of tucked away. I didn't realize the scope of how big it was. We didn't know the layout. We'd never been in there. There was information that the shooter was moving from one building to another. So one building, he had just got done shooting at least 4 to 5 people. And he was making his way to the current building. So contact team 1, the San Jose officer, Jeff, he says, latest information is he's in building A. And I look up and lo and behold, I'm staring at this letter A that's about 6 feet tall painted on the building. So I'm like, all right, well, bingo there. I see people running out. There's employees that have run out, but they're still kind of on the inner perimeter looking back like worried for their coworkers.
Yeah.
And we're asking, hey, by this time we believe we know who it is, some by name, a disgruntled employee, because they recognized this person. That morning there was a union meeting, and in building B, that's where this meeting was. The shooter actually went into that meeting and started cutting loose right there. He knew that
he knew the meeting was happening.
It was happening before shift. So I go up to one of the employees and, I asked him, where did you see this person last? And he says, I think he's in building A. He's in building A. He's wearing coveralls. He's got the fluorescent gear. Well, everyone at VTA is wearing coveralls with the fluorescent gear. Don't know what it looks like.
Standard uniform.
Yeah. But so you knew if people were running out, and we could hear gunfire, that he's still inside. So I look over, I have my team together, and I look over to my right, and about 100 yards away from me is a sheriff's team, a contact team. So we'll call them contact team 3. They were behind a train, and really this is kind of one of those 2 agencies, big building. We'd never done anything like this before. I hadn't trained with the SO, like ever. The last active shooter training that we had that was allied agency was when I was with the Milpitas SWAT team in 1999.
Wow.
That was the last time. So comms were very bad. Radio traffic was going, everyone's jumping on the air, and really my main concern was I knew contact team 1 was inside. We were going to be 2, and that there was a 3rd one, and there was more than enough space in there for all 3 of us to be in there. So blue on blue or blue on tan, that's what I didn't want. So I saw an open bay door, and getting back to your question of which doors do you go into, whichever ones are open. So SO's looking straight at an open bay door. I see an employee coming out of just a regular door, and I see to the right a little electronic key card reader. So I knew off the bat that we were going to probably need that to get inside, as well as maybe you might need that to get into interior doors on the interior.
Yep.
Which turned out to be true. So this one employee runs out. We grab his key card. Our team makes our way to a door that was probably about 300 feet away from that open bay. We coordinated with the SO team, and we hit both. They hit the bay, we hit the door simultaneously, and we went in. It's funny, so you pull a door open and you expect to see something, and then you're looking at a wall. And that particular door was configured where you walk straight into basically a room about the size of your studio, and then it just branches left, and then it opens up into the bay. So we fly the door, we make entry, and again, these are people that were not on a SWAT team. We have never trained together. You just kind of run what you brung, if you will.
Yeah.
And it actually worked out pretty well. I mean, everyone just kind of fit into a place. There was no real, we had the rifle up front, and I was up front. And outside of that, I just said, hey, just eyes open, head on a swivel. Mm-hmm. We look into the warehouse. It's dark. There's multiple trains. It's multiple levels. And it's like a scene out of Call of Duty, like a level of Call of Duty, where you're looking and you go, all right, the first thing that goes to your mind is, how long has this dude been planning this?
Yeah.
How many nests does he have? Is he elevated? Yeah. You don't want to stay in the fatal funnel, which we weren't, but, we're on the ground floor, and, we were at a very, in a bad position where.
Super disadvantaged.
Yeah. anywhere in that warehouse, this guy could have taken all of us if he wanted to. So while it's pretty chaotic, while this is going on, the first thing I'm looking for is any stimuli, if you will. So I can smell it. I can smell the gunfire. I can smell gunpowder. So I know it's close. I don't hear any screaming. I don't see bodies down on the ground floor. Dispatch is putting out conflicting information saying shooters down on the first floor. He's 10-5-5 on the first floor, which means he's gone.
For those of you that don't know.
Yeah, so I'm looking on all around, and everywhere I see, I don't hear anybody. So whoever's there is either already deceased or they're hiding. I don't see a shooter. I don't hear a shooter. So bad information. I didn't have time to get on the air to say negative. That's because contact team 1 says we hear shooting upstairs. So it being dark, this huge warehouse, I told the team, I said, run the wall until we find the staircase. So we didn't have to go too far. I want to say it was probably about 75 feet of wall. So we ran the wall like rats, which is another bad place to be.
Yeah.
Just trying to find a staircase. So we find the staircase, and then that's where we end up meeting contact team 3. They had just made their way to that point. And Mike, the guy with the AR that was our point, I got to hand it to him. You know, fearless, man. That guy ran right past these guys, didn't even hesitate, up the stairwell. And for me, my prior SWAT training is you don't just run up the stairs. You just kind of like look straight up, and someone's got to cover high while the rest of well, so I do that. And out of the corner of my eye, I see Mike just rip right up the stairs. And what I didn't hear and what I didn't see was there was an employee that was hanging over the third floor landing, and he had both his hands extended. And this is what Mike told me. Both his hands extended, saying, "Hey, I'm not the bad guy, but he's up here. I'll show you where he's at." So that's what Mike saw when he initially went in. So he got a good flight of stairs ahead of me, and the rest of the team was bottled up on me. And so I just dropped my weapon. I said, "Let's go. It's time to go." So we start like literally sprinting up the stairs. I'm carrying my 870 that I purchased back in 1986, but it's only the shell. I got the Van Comp barrel, and and I'm thinking, okay, so I got the side saddle, I got Van Comp, I got my lighting, I got a ghost ring. I don't like the ghost ring in the dark, and now I'm reassessing. Do I just transition to my pistol at this time? But I said, all right, we got to have long guns on front. But as I'm running up the stairs, of course, when you're running as fast as you can, guess what goes flying out of my hand? Out goes the shotgun, and midair, they tell you not to grab it. So I decide to actually let it hit the deck first, that simultaneously as I pick it up and without losing a stride. And I felt a hand behind me actually keep me from hitting the ground or hitting the stairs. And that was actually very helpful because without breaking stride, I was able to make it up. And
nice.
After watching some footage, I guess the same thing happened to someone back in the back. This dude was running, and he hits the stairs. He goes flying, and someone grabs that person.
Wow.
So the momentum was good. We get up on the third deck, and it's a smaller workspace. And this employee, he's a hero, total hero. He stayed up there knowing this guy totally cut loose. He's armed himself with a wrench. He's standing up there with a wrench.
Well, good for him.
And he's like, hey, man, he's down there. And so, like, of course, what goes through your mind is, all right, this guy is he rendered safe? I don't know. We don't know if there's one shooter working in conjunction with someone else. But you just kind of got that urgency that, this guy's telling the truth. You have to run with your gut. So he takes us to a set of double doors. So this double doors goes into a long hallway that ends in a T. And he points his head. He actually points his head in there, and he goes, I think he's down there. And all of a sudden we hear, da-da, we hear shooting. And so, when you think like things can't get worse. So going back to how this story started, hey, I got a bad feeling about today.
Oh, man.
Then you're sitting in the car, hey, 6 to 8 people shot. Then you land at the rally point, you go, I don't recognize anybody. And then you hit the building and it's all dark, and you're like, oh, dude, this isn't getting. Now,
it's like worst case scenario.
And it just keeps getting worse and worse because now it's a hallway that's only about, I don't know what the standard is, I'll just say 8 feet.
Yeah.
8 feet. And we look down, and so now I'm looking down this hallway. It's probably about 75 feet long, terminates in a T. The employee did say, hey, I think he's down there. So at the end of the hallway, if you go right, is the control room, and that's where contact team 1 ended up. So backing up, while we made our way up through this staircase and into this hallway, contact team 1 went up their exterior stairwell. They run into an employee who happened to just open the door, and it was fortuitous that he did that because they wouldn't have been able to get in. So that's the control center for the entire place. So that employee that ran out, his brother actually works for us as an officer.
No kidding.
And so they look at him and he goes, yeah, he's back in there. So they cleared this control room. So they're inside this control room while we're entering the hallway. If you turn left, opposite of the control room, that is another office. And outside of that office, there's a little table, and that's where the shooter was. The shooter was waiting right there. So we hear some more rounds. I don't know they're in that control room yet. And when I'm looking down the hallway, I'm just going off of what I know. I see double doors, double door, double door. So 3 sets of double doors. So that tells me there's probably a warehouse storeroom to the left. It's probably big. So the last shots I heard, my whole team, we ended up in that hallway, which is another shitty place to be.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking, oh, dude, again, gets worse. And so I'm trying to make the determination, is this sound coming from an adjacent room that's wrapping around, or is it coming from the end of the hallway? And so that was one of those, well, don't be wrong, just pick, don't think, just do. So we see a door, and we boot the first door to our left. First we try it, then we boot it, and it's barricaded. So we knew it was barricaded, and if it's barricaded, that means someone inside barricaded it.
Yeah.
And
Smart.
more than likely,
part, yeah.
probably survivors, right? So Mike goes in there, he identifies himself, and while this is going on, the radios are really, really loud, no earpieces or anything like that. And he calls out, he hears people inside. He goes, yeah, we got survivors inside. As we're addressing that, now we hear more shots at the end of the hallway. So now we know he's at the end of the hallway. So we advance at the hallway, and then we kind of stop because it was just 2 shots. It was boom, and then boom, and that was it. And ultimately what that ended up being was the shooter was right around the corner, and this is just me thinking that he heard us. There's no way he didn't hear us.
Yeah.
He took a shot actually he saw the illumination inside the control room because he took a shot at the control room. And apparently that's key card access only that only management has. So he didn't have the key card, so he just took a shot there. We were at the other end of the hallway, and then apparently there was a sheriff's team waiting at the bottom of that stairwell. They didn't come up. So it was kind of checkmate on his part.
Yeah,
so
he was caught. I mean, he wasn't going anywhere.
So that first shot was a hesitation shot, and the second shot was the final shot. But he was still unconscious but breathing when we reached him.
So he shot himself.
Shot himself, yeah. So we make our way down the hallway. We see illumination coming from the right, which I know is law enforcement, right? We have the 1800 lumen.
Yeah, right.
I'm like, it was kind of like a breath of fresh air. I'm like, okay, good. All right, now I felt like I could coast just a little bit. So there was no coasting. I'm now just take a breather, and then I see part of a face peek up behind the wall that I recognize as law enforcement. And so I said, okay, good. So now we can go methodical, and we round the corner, and the shooter in the table, gun in hand, gun on the floor, backpack full of rounds. He had a duty belt on, mags wrapped all around his body. Ended up having a pistol in the small of his back, and a holster in the small of his back. We had a contact team would stand by him, and we ended up going into the office that he just got done shooting killed 3 people in there, and there was a 4th survivor. We cleared that. One of the survivors on the ground was still conscious, still breathing. Each of the victims, it appeared to me, took a magazine to the face. I mean, I called it severe animus. I mean, this guy clearly was angry. Right, so everyone looked like they had a mag dump in their face. We cleared that office, and then there's one sub office inside that was still locked from the inside. So going back, remember the sergeant that I told you, hey man, establish the CP? Well, it turns out he said, F that, he ended up going inside with us. Really? So there was no CP. There was no CP. So this is just run and gun, right? Yeah. So I tell him, hey, I'm going to coordinate a extraction team. We're going to get the survivors out. And because the shooter was still breathing, we're going to bring him out. I need you to clear this office so someone's in here. It turns out there was another survivor inside there. and she was pushed in there by one of the victims outside, and he said, "Don't open this door," and shuts the door, and that's when the shooter went in and finished all of them off.
So did that guy make it, or he didn't make it?
He didn't make it. He didn't make it. More
But he
on
saved her.
that. He saved her. Saved her.
Wow.